night I saw a superhero, he was black. He said, this is for the street, Black Lightning's back.
Hello again to all and welcome back into the channel for this week's review of Black Lightning Season 4 Episode 9, which is Chapter 4 of the Book of Ruin, titled LYDING. Now just in case you are new to the channel, please be advised there will be heavy spoilers as we discuss each and every event that we choose to talk about. So right out of the gate,
I told you he was acting crazy.
So seeing as how we've only been doing reviews for Black Lightning since the first episode of this season, mind you though, we've been watching this show since it first came out. Now, it's not a huge deal to me, but to be honest, most if not all of our predictions that we've been dishing out this entire season have been coming true one way or another. And in this episode, starting with that weird dream that Lynn has at the beginning, it seems that Tobias is finally inflicting his wrath upon the Peirce family as promised. So now, the one facet about that dream that I found worth expounding on is the part where Lynn says that this is the only way that they can be normal again, and that their powers are making them be who they don't want to be. Now this is obviously something that is personal to Lynn and results from the impact of the events of these past seasons. But for those of you who do know, do you remember back in episode 3 of this season when Jefferson told Lynn in so many words that she wasn't like them or him and the girls? And he also added this to his argument.
Playing with these powers will lead to misery. So you want to be a weekend warrior, suit yourself. I want no part of it.
So I believe that this argument resulted in that dream, coupled with the fact of losing Jen's former self, because if you remember, Jen was still her old self in that episode, and I believe all this has really been taking a toll on her mentally. Not to mention both Lynn and Jefferson's relationship as of late has been kind of rocky. So as usual when it comes to Jen,
you are reckless.
Due in part to her wanting to impress her new crush, Uriah, she ends up causing more damage than actually helping. By Jen swooping down and going live on Instagram to help Uriah with this GoFundMe campaign, this seemingly innocent interaction helps Police Chief Lopez set up a fake rendezvous that was supposed to have been with Uriah. Now mind you, this is primarily to capture Jen, due in part from the media's portrayal of her. Even though Hassan does try to warn Jefferson about the police chief's plans in a scene that pays homage to Black Lightning's comic book panels, it was Jen's decision and not her age that even allows Ishmael to gather vital tactical data on her that may or may not be used later on in the show. Now Anissa gets an upgrade in her suit that she activates by snapping her fingers, and this coincidence is worth mentioning, not just because it's important to this show, but also because of another character getting an upgrade in theirs quite recently. But we'll talk about the significance of this uniform later on. But I think one of the biggest takeaways from this episode, number 1, is Khalil showing up in Freeland for the first time since season 3 to get some information on Tobias in regards to Jefferson being framed. The classic lone gunslinger whistle effect is present in the background, despite the fact that when it comes to Khalil and Painkiller, their dual dynamic is further expounded upon, showing the two swap out or playing musical chairs with being in the driver's seat. Now like I said in my most recent review, and that video will be at the top right of your screen, the only way to take Tobias out will be more than just Jefferson by himself. Now I will reserve exactly how I think will play out, but Khalil does need his revenge as well, especially when it comes to his history with Tobias. Because if you think about it, since Tobias used a meta nullifier booster by way of harvesting genes from Val, Painkiller does not use the meta gene to inflict his poison. Just a thought. Freeland claims yet another life as Darius is taken out by digging into the cystic fibrosis treatment that was recently just added to the hospital or clinic or one of them. Now I found this turn of events to be unfortunate, how that he might have been saved if Jefferson didn't call Ishmael out for a pointless one-on-one that may leave Jefferson in serious trouble. Also, Lynn's research is potentially flushed down the drain because of what Tobias has done to Jefferson. And I know these characters are suffering from PTSD, which explains why they argue as much as they do. But he would have been home and more than likely would not have allowed Lynn to be taken into custody and, well, grossly mistreated. It was terrible what happened to Lynn. And seeing these turn of events play out before our very eyes, my theory or prediction of Tobias taking advantage of Lynn is most unfortunately fulfilled by this one scene. And let me just say, even though this is a fictional character, I don't always like being right. So seeing as how the Book of Ruin is at its apex, and FYI, the word LYDING is an African term for suffering, which reminds me, shout out to my African viewers, much love and respect. So the very next episode could be the last page in this chapter, or the beginning of a new chapter, in which the tide turns in the hero's favor. Now I do believe the new feature in Anissa's suit will save her from their own hit collision. Now how Jefferson and Jen will be saved could involve Khalil, but which one and how, well, I'll just leave that to next week's episode. Which brings this review to a close. Make sure you stay tuned in to Content Meta for more reviews just like this one. Also, be on the lookout for our new giveaway, which will be distributed by the end of next week. The details of such will be in the description of an upcoming video. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. And until then, see you then.